Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle. Once again, it is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, listening to us on incredible radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 in the Midlands, heard around the world on the iHeart Radio application. Download today. It is free. The website, put the .com on it, doggone it. That's ClemsonSportsTalk.com. 803-450-0086. Text line, phone line, live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and of course, at 4 o'clock, this segment kicks off on iHeartRadio on Fox Sports Radio 1400 in the Midlands. All right, so the big news in the world of college football over the past 24 hours, obviously, our buddies over at our sister site, TexAgs.com, Billy Lucci, breaking the story that Jimbo Fisher was out at Texas A&M. No surprise here. Listen, I didn't like the move in the first place for A&M. I grew up, just a little backstory here. I'm not an Aggie by any means, but if I'm traveling the highways and byways of the great state of Texas, honk if you're an Aggie, you might run into something along those lines. But I had family, cousins that went to school at Texas A&M. There was a time, growing up where when college football didn't exist in this universe in which there are oodles and oodles of opportunities to tune in and watch teams from all over the country playing on your television set every weekend. Texas A&M was a team that I sort of followed because of my family's relationships with that university. And then my cousins would go on that are about my age to graduate from there. One of them, man, not that all of my cousins don't have pretty cool jobs, but I'm going to tell you, I got one cousin that works for Pixar. Yeah, that's right. The people that make Cars and all those movies. You talk about a gig. That's got to be a sweet gig.
Not only are you a hot dog, a grandstander, a showboat, and a prima donna, but you're a liar too.
Not lying. My cousin Jake, you can watch certain movies and you see him. You'll see the little title. I forget. He works mostly with hair, I think. So he's done like Sully in Monsters, not Inc., but Monsters University. He did Lotso the Bear in Toy Story 3. I mean, he does a lot of stuff like that. Anyway, he's a Texas A&M guy. And so it's kind of ironic that my family has these ties to A&M. And then when we went to take the radio show to expand it to the website, I still actually have the sites bookmarked right now. Like on my computer, it was like sports sites that I like, their forums. That's all I really wanted. I had the website and I just wanted a forum. I wanted a place for people to come and congregate. By the way, you can do that now. You can be a part of what we do, and we'd love to have you hang out with us on our website, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. It's $63.17 for 1 year of coverage of your Tigers. $1 gets you in for 3 months. Gamecock fans absolutely love it, though, when you tell them, oh, yeah, the website I subscribe to, it's $63.17.
So you could continue to peek over the fence at the best radio show in the nation.
The late, great Cleveland man dropping that dime on Gamecock Nation many moons ago here on the program. But those ties to Texas A&M and then connecting with the guys over at TexAgs, I've got a unique perspective on this program because I feel like there was a time in my life where Texas A&M maybe wasn't quote unquote cutthroat in regards to college football. And maybe that existed before they entered. And look, I could be wrong, right? Like, I'm not in College Station. Maybe A&M fans would say, oh, no, Swan, it was always like this, even before we were a part of the SEC. But I do believe that when Texas A&M joined the SEC, much like when Missouri came into the SEC, the conversations around both of those programs from SEC teams was that they would not be able to hang. Now, I think in the old Big 12, when Texas A&M and Texas were all together, I think Texas A&M, they're not going to like what I have to say, but this is the truth. They had, I think, a little bit of the little brother syndrome compared to Texas.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
And because they had that syndrome going on, you didn't hear much from them. They were probably chirping in the Lone Star State, but I didn't hear much of them nationally. And so then they make the move to the SEC. And then I think at some point they decided we've really got to kick it into high gear to compete with the Alabamas and the LSUs out in the SEC West. And then I think from my standpoint, like when you think back to, let me see, what year? Let me throw this in the old Google machine real fast. I want to say 05, 06, when Clemson faced off with Texas A&M out in College Station. I'm going to get the exact year here in just a second. But anyway, the program that exists today out there, to me, feels extremely different from the program that we have been accustomed to watching through the years. And that's okay. Like, it is okay for your identity to be shifted. It is okay to say, man, we got to really kick things up. All right, so that was 04, 05. So 04, College Station, 27-6, the final score there. I believe that was the game where notoriously, we can ask Tommy Bowden about this perhaps on Friday when he comes on the program. I believe that was the game where Clemson had like an hour drive to the stadium or something ridiculous, and there was no air conditioning in the buses. I don't know if y'all remember those days or that game or not, but that is the game where Texas A&M really beat up on Clemson. I remember Tiger fans were kind of surprised at the outcome of that one. Now, Clemson won the following year. James Davis was a freshman. Clemson kicked a field goal to win it 25-24. And then, of course, the Tigers beat the Aggies in College Station 28-26. Controversial play near the goal line. Kayvon Wallace punched the ball out. You may recall Trevor Lawrence comes in, first pass touchdown to T. Higgins. And then in 2019, Clemson beat Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher for a second time in Death Valley, 24-10. But at some point when they shifted into the SEC, it really did begin to feel like Texas A&M became a different type program to me. And again, I'm an outsider, but that was my perspective. It went from being a program where I felt like, you know what, I could really root for them, to a program, especially once they took on Jimbo Fisher. And I think taking on Fisher more than, Kevin Sumlin, I don't recall it when Sumlin was there feeling this way necessarily, but it felt like Jimbo Fisher just brought something to that program that made me not want to see them succeed for the first time in my life. It was a cutthroat edge. It was a different mentality, it felt like. Almost for a group of individuals who certainly pride themselves on the military tradition and history that their school has, that just kind of came across as, we're better than you. We're going to go win national championships because we went and got a coach like Jimbo Fisher from Florida State. And it never panned out. And so now the question becomes, and I got it up on the screen, you can let me know what you think if you're watching. If you're listening to the show, you can certainly text us 803-450-0086. But would Dabo Swinney leave for that job? Because when I hear Billy Lucci and other guys talking about the opportunities, and William Qualkenbush was on the program yesterday. Matter of fact, we'll talk with Mike Uva from Gamecock Central in hour number 2 about this very same thing with Clemson to get his perspective on it. But you have to make the call. You have to make the call if you're Texas A&M. There's no way you don't make the call. As a matter of fact, speaking of the call, Dabo Swinney was asked earlier today about the Texas A&M job. Here's what Swinney said during his time with the media this morning.
Man, I'm just focused on this job. Always have been, and just trying to find a way to beat North Carolina. That's it. Must be November. That's all I can say.
So, focused on this job. Must be November. That's what Dabo Swinney had to say about it. But would he leave? I think the answer to that question is yes. I think he would leave. I would take the job. And you say, well, of course you would, Swanee. Of course you would. You'd go for the bucks. But you'd have to pay him, I think, an incredible amount of money. And so I don't think Dabo Swinney leaves for this job. First off, as we noted, Texas A&M bungled the contract with Jimbo Fisher to the point of where it got so bad that you had to cut ties with the coach, and you're paying three times what the record has been in terms of paying a coach who's no longer coaching your program. The highest paid coach prior to this in terms of buyout was Gus Malzahn at like $21 million. This is pushing that number up to $76 some odd million. 19.2 of which are due within 60 days. And then they will pay Jimbo Fisher annually $7.2 million a year through 2031. And I'm going to tell you something. If I'm Jimbo Fisher, you're never going to see me again. Why would I want the hassle of coaching football? Why would I want the hassle of dealing with human beings? I'm living on some island somewhere, eating steak and shrimp and lobster and everything I could want. I'm not going to be an analyst. I'm not going to be a TV, play-by-play color guy. I'm not doing anything if I'm Jimbo Fisher. I'm building my house and I'm chilling. But in order to get a coach like Dabo Swinney, who's got 2 national championships at Clemson, think about what they gave Jimbo Fisher when he first got there. It was a 10-year, $75 million contract. They gave him $7.5 million off the hoof just based off of what he did at Florida State. Now, Dabo Swinney today makes somewhere around $11 million a year, 10.9. If you listen to Tyler, then you might think that Dabo Swinney makes what did Tyler say, 11.5?
But I'm not going to sit here and let you call. I don't give a crap how much money I make. You ain't going to talk to me like I'm 12 years old. You'd be freaking kidding me.
Amen.
Amen, Don Munson. So if you just take that into account, you're already paying. And hey, listen, oil money, Swanee, oil money. Dude, this is not Saudi Arabia. Okay? I understand there's oil money. I understand they could pay somebody, but there's also got to be reasonably minded people at the top that are looking at the books and saying, yeah, that's great and all. It would be nice to reel in Dabo Swinney. It would be amazing to figure out a way to navigate Kirby Smart out of Georgia. Dude, those aren't the guys you're getting. First off, with what you owe what you owe Fisher, you're not going to be willing to pony up that type of money for guys like Swinney, guys like Smart. Heck, I'll throw the name in there since I accidentally said it just a second ago. Guys like Saban, even at his, at his advanced age, you're not bringing any of those guys in. You're not paying anybody $10 million a year to come in and coach this program. So, would Dabo Swinney leave for Texas A&M? Yes, everybody would leave for Texas A&M, in my opinion. Because I think if Texas A&M were willing to be absolutely ridiculous with the funds, if they're willing to just say, who cares? $15 million a year, $20 million a year to the coach. Let's bring him in and get the JOBDONE, the job done, then maybe anybody would go take it. You could like the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, said it best when we were all kids. Everybody's got a price. But I don't think A&M has the pocketbook and the willingness. I better not say doesn't have the pocketbook. They will jump on me on that. I don't think they have the willingness to go out and pay Sweeney what he would need. I don't think they have the willingness to go out and pay Kirby Smart or Ryan Day or any of the top-tier coaches in college football. I don't think they have the willingness to give them the money that it would take. And that's where I think this issue comes to a halt. They certainly would call Dabo Swinney. They may have already called Dabo Swinney. But as Dabo Swinney said, he's focused on this job and it must be November. I wouldn't go there. And I said this years ago. Not that I wouldn't go to A&M. I didn't say that. But if I was Dabo Swinney, I always said I wouldn't even go to Alabama. And unfortunately, there are some fans out there like Tyler who called up Dabo Swinney's show and was so disappointed with where the program is that Dabo Swinney talked about your appreciation versus your expectation. There are some fans out there that have forgotten how far Clemson has come. And should you be dismissive of a season that has played out the way this one has had? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I don't think that you have to believe that Dabo Swinney has lost, all of what brought you here because you're having a down year, because you're not performing at the same level in which you performed for nearly a decade. When if you think about runs in the world of college football, how many teams go on decade-esque runs? Not many.
Pow!
Not many at all. And so for Swinney to leave, it would have to be an incredible amount of money. So much money that even you would sit there and go, well, how could you blame him? What would it matter if he fails? And I don't think they're going to do that. Mike Elko, to me, is not a sexy hire. Okay? Not a sexy hire at all. And maybe that's what they need. I know he was the defensive coordinator there. I know what he's done at Duke in a short amount of time. And I'm assuming that there is probably a contingent of Aggie fans who are just like, we got to go get this guy because he's kind of a nose to the grindstone, blue collar, come out swinging, get us right. And I think that's more what they're looking for. I don't think Aggie fans, because they already tried to go get Jimbo Fisher was almost, I can't say fresh. He was fresh off of Christmas. We know that by the tree sitting in his yard. But he was he was pretty fresh off a national championship and a college football playoff run. And the vibe around him was that, hey, he was going to be able to do this. He was going to be able to turn Texas A&M into what they wanted to be, which is Alabama, which is what Georgia's become, which is what Clemson became in terms of success. And it never materialized. And I have no reason to believe that they would willingly go out and try the same strategy when they are already on the hook to Fisher for all the money that they are going to owe him. Let us know what you think. You can text us, again, 803-450-0086, live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And, of course, at 4 o'clock, this segment goes live on the iHeartRadio app. Thanks to everybody tuning in. We'll hit a quick break. We'll come back with more right here on the show that shakes the Southland. What's up, everybody? Segment 1 in the can. By the way, programming note next week, Thanksgiving week. And I told you on Friday we would not be live on Monday. Mondays are going to be notoriously tough for me. But I will say next week we're doing Monday, Tuesday. And I know it's all about Clemson and South Carolina, but we're doing Monday, Tuesday, Friday. Okay, so Wednesday, Thursday for Thanksgiving, I'll be off. Let's see. So it's 340 right now. All right, I'll tell you what. I did not get connected before. Joe, let me go ahead and get connected to iHeart so I can upload that segment. No comments on that? What do y'all think? I figured some of y'all would be commenting for sure. Would he leave for Texas A&M? I think who wouldn't? I mean, look, man. If somebody called me up and said, "Swanee, look, man, we need you to come coach Texas A&M." Okay, it'd be hard pressed not to. But if you're already making $11 million, the number that they have to hit, like, right? I'd go for $1 million. I'd go coach that thing into the ground for 5 years. Further in the ground than maybe Fisher made the fans feel like it is. They'd be pulling my record out. Swanee can't even touch Jimbo's record, let alone Kevin Sumlin. But if you're making $11 million a year, like, he's not going for 9. He's not leaving for less. That's my point. Like, and he's not leaving. I don't care how mad he got at Tyler from Spartanburg or whatever. He wouldn't leave for $2 million more. Right? And I think that question came because I think Becky and Gaffney or wherever she's from said something along the lines of, you can't spend, you can only spend so much in your life. And that's, Dabo Sweeney's not a guy, I don't think he's motivated by the money. And so an extra couple of million is not going to make him move. I mean, all of his sons have graduated from Clemson, well, all but one. He's on the team now, Clay. And you've established all the culture, everything that Brent Venables took to Oklahoma. Part of that comes from Clemson, from the women's clinic and all of those things that I think Oklahoma fans really love about their program right now. So from that standpoint, like if I'm Dabo Sweeney, you got to hit like ludicrous speed numbers. You got to hit like 20 million for me to talk to you about it. And maybe that's how those things go when you get to that level. Maybe Sweeney tells his agent, look, man, here's the number. If they hit you with 25 mil a year on a 5-year deal, guaranteed, we're packing up we're like the Clampets. We're loading up and going. But if they can't touch that number, I'm not going anywhere. I mean, I don't know how those things work, but that's how it worked for me. That's why I said, would Dabo Sweeney go to that job? Yes, I think he would. I think there's a number. Do I think A&M would hit that number? No, I don't. Do I think Dabo Sweeney's number is 12 million? No, I don't. So I think it's twofold, right? It's hitting it from two directions. All right. Let's see. Production. Golly, that took forever to connect. I hate when that happens. All right, go ahead and drop that in. All right, here we go. Segment 2. I did not even share it. What a dum-dum. You know what that means? Gotta re-up the question, I guess. All right, here we go. Rolling along on a Tuesday afternoon, the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk, Lawton Swan. If you're anywhere in the world watching right now and you're thinking to yourself, "Oh man, I'm just about to leave the house. I want to be able to catch the rest of this show." We are on the iHeartRadio app. It's Fox Sports Radio 1400. The show streams on our website, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. If that's hard to remember, ClemsonRadio.com will get you there as well. 803-450-0086. We were talking about Dabo Swinney before the break. Would he take the job at Texas A&M? I'm not telling you it's been offered to him. I'm not telling you he's going anywhere. I'm not telling you they really care, even if they would be overly interested in Dabo Swinney. But owing Jimbo Fisher $77.6 million to me puts them in a predicament, no matter how much money they have, in that I don't think Texas A&M would be willing to pay the money that a coach like Dabo Swinney would potentially command. Because at this point, I'm no master negotiator, but at this point, when you've had the success that Dabo Swinney has had at Clemson, if Jimbo Fisher with one national championship at Florida State commanded $7.5 million of his first contract over a 10-year, they did a 10-year, $75 million with him. Then if I'm Dabo Swinney, I'm really not leaving Clemson for less than double what I already get, which puts me somewhere at $22 million, and I probably put 25 down on the card just in case, just for a little Christmas bonus, if you will. And I don't think they'll touch that. So my answer to the question, would Dabo Swinney leave for Texas A&M? I think it is yes. Will he? I think it is no. And those are two completely different questions. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Like, do you think would someone who's had the success that Dabo Swinney has had, no matter how much it feels like to some observers it's fallen off, would you say, you know what, I'm going to go somewhere else and try to rebuild that with the pressures of the SEC West, of an expanded SEC, adding Texas, adding Oklahoma in this new era of college football? Is that what you want to get into? I mean, Dabo Swinney, and I get it, we're not this is not professional sports. I know some people like to say, well, NIL's made it professional. It's really made it more pay for play. That's kind of what it's become to a degree. Now, granted, do I think there's some back channel stuff that probably happens for recruits and transfers that makes it kind of the dirty underworld of the sport that we don't want to talk about? Yes. Like going into a rest stop restroom, if you will. Yeah, the lighting in there. I think George Carlin said it best. You see every pimple, boil, zit, whatever that you've got. You don't want to talk about that when it comes to college football. I think that if you are Dabo Swinney and you don't want to be in professional football, then Texas A&M and what they want to do, what they want to become, yields, I think, more towards that professional model, unfortunately. And look, as the coach, you get to instill your culture. You get to ingrain the things that you stand for and that you believe in. But do I want to have to go in there and turn? I mean, it's like that thing feels like Titanic going towards the iceberg. Do I want to get in there and try to turn that ship around? No, I don't. Not at all. Not interested in it. And again, I think it is more of a pay-for-play type model. The heroes get the zeros. You score the touchdowns, you end up with the sponsorships in the new NIL model. And yeah, there are certainly guys that make a lot and don't do a lot. But either way, and there are young guys that come in, right, and get a lot. And then maybe they don't materialize. But that is the risk you've always had in the world of sports, but now it's a financial risk. You've always had that risk when you recruited players. That's always been there. Cam chimes in. He says, Dabo Swinney doesn't seem like a Texas A&M kind of guy. Plus, like you said, they just tried that model. I think they go scoop Mike Elko. And it's interesting because, Cam, I want to go back to something I said in the opening statement about the following of Texas A&M that I had when I was younger. My cousins and family that live out in the state of Texas, honk if you're an Aggie, that ended up going to school there, right? And the connection that I have, I think Dabo Swinney fit like 1990s Texas A&M. I really do. But for whatever reason, somewhere along the way, it changed. And I wonder, I would love this more than anything. If you're an Aggie fan, 803-450-0086, you could text that number. I will call you. Technically, you could call me, but I will call you. And I'd love to hear if you feel the way I feel. Like, Dabo Swinney feels kind of, if you think about like Jackie Sherrill, who was there from like 82 to 88, or R.C. Slocum from 89 to 2002, like that era of Texas A&M football feels like, man, Dabo Swinney would be the fit. Dabo Swinney would be the fit. I mean, they end up getting guys like Mike Sherman. Let's see. Sumlin came in, then Fisher. And somewhere, I think it was the move to the SEC. Somewhere in that move, they became different from the program I grew up watching. Speaking of programs I grew up watching, the Penn State Nittany Lions were all the talk when I was growing up. Will they ever become something other than the third fiddle in the Big Ten behind Ohio State and Michigan? I think it's a great question. We'll talk about it right after this. Stay with us. What's up, Cam? Thanks for chiming in, buddy. I got to get this segment loaded real quick. Let's see. It's 53. Man, these when Lowell used to be a part of the show before he moved on, man, he used to bring these in. Whew. That thing is good. Red Bull, if you want to be a sponsor, holler at your boy. All right. You know what's funny, though, about Penn State, to me, is, I don't know. I'll save it for the segment. It's all right. There we go. All right. What time is it? 54? What is he? James Franklin's 51. So he's younger than Dabo. I think Dabo's 53 or gonna be 53. Does Dabo turn 53 like next week? Dabo turns 54, right? Next week. November 20th. Sweeney's 3 years older than Franklin. Cam says, give me $20 million a year and I'm an any kind of guy school. Right. That's my point, right? Like, that's exactly my point, Cam. It's like, would Dabo Swinney go to Texas A&M? Yes. We all would. I would coach him in those goofy get-ups that the cheerleader, the cheer, what are they called? They're not Leo. What are they called? You know, the guys that are always down there doing the thing and everybody makes fun of them. Because like seeing them do that in an empty stadium for the cheer practice leaders, yell leaders in an empty stadium just doesn't work. But I'd coach in those outfits for $20 million a year. All right, here we go. What time is it? 56. Oh, yeah, we're good. All right, let's go. Back at it on a Tuesday afternoon. Mike Uva, GamecockCentral.com, joins the program in just a little bit. We'll catch up with him. I was talking out of the gates a lot about Dabo Swinney. Would he go to Texas A&M? Again, Dabo Swinney said he's just trying to beat North Carolina. And I think more than anything, the part of his statement there that makes you know that this is not the gig he would go for or leave for. Was the statement about, well, it must be November. And he's accustomed to hearing these conversations about any big job because of the job that he's done. And I'll go back before I fast forward to Penn State, which I told you we'd talk about before the break. I do want to say I don't think that Sweeney would leave Clemson even for the Alabama job several years ago. And I always said like this, like, I understand you go home to mama. I get you go home to mama, but this is your baby. This is your baby. And as parents can understand, the attachment that you have for your kids is greater than the attachment that you have for your parents. And your parents' attachment for you is greater than their attachment to their parents. That's the nature of things. Now, we also find out once our kids get here that the attachment of the grandparents to the grandkids is greater than the attachment to you as well. It's like, I don't remember us getting so much good candy all the time at the house when I was growing up, Dad. They're kids. They're kids. You know this, right? And it's coming for me too. It's coming. Eventually my kids will have kids and I'll be like, oh, just let them eat the candy. And now I'm like, do you guys not know about cavities? I need to talk to y'all about that for a minute. Anyway, Craig jumps into the program. He says, I'd coach 1 year if I had a $76 million payout. Craig, listen, I've been doing this radio show at iHeart for a decade. I've been trying to get the $76 million buyout. What do I have to do? Who do I have to offend? What do I have to say to get paid to not work? What a deal. What a deal to get paid to not work. What do you do for a living? I just get paid. I mean, Jimbo Fisher's going to get a check for now. He gets the 19.2 or whatever it is in the next 60, 90 days, whatever the contract said. But he's going to get like Bobby Bonilla type, payment in that. It's going to be more than Bobby. He's going to get over $500,000 a month through 2031. I don't even know what you do with that. Unless he wants to partner with the show that shakes the Southland. Jimbo, let's take this thing to the top. Just whatever you do, don't listen to any of the opening 2 segments of November the 14th, 2023 show. Thanks, buddy. And maybe don't dig into the archives too much because you might also find something while you're at Florida State that I said that you would not want to be a part of this program. But Penn State, not even second fiddle. These dudes are third fiddle. And I don't know if they can overcome Michigan and Ohio State. Like, I think Penn State's a good program that's trapped behind 2 behemoths. And the irony is some Texas A&M fans probably feel the same way about their program. We're a good program, but we're trapped behind 2 behemoths. And normally in the SEC West alone, now this is before all the expansion, you're probably always looking up at Alabama and LSU. And the issue that I think Texas A&M has is the money that they were paying Jimbo Fisher. If Fisher had a modest salary, I don't know that they would have necessarily parted ways with him at this point. James Franklin makes about $8.5 million. Now, that's about on par with the coaches that haven't won national championships. Lane Kiffin makes more. Jim Harbaugh makes slightly less. Mario Cristobal makes about $8 million at Miami. So Franklin, who's about the 12th highest paid coach, maybe 11th if you take out Mel Tucker after he was fired at Michigan State, he makes a lot of money. But I think Penn State people feel like, well, where else are you going to go? And that's probably where A&M fans would have liked to have been. They would have liked to have been, where else are you going to, who else are you going to go after and get? Because we got Jimbo at a bargain price. Instead, Jimbo's like an anchor tying you down, and then they're underperforming. And they're underperforming more so than Penn State. But granted, I think the competition they face is a lot greater than Penn State's outside of Michigan and Ohio State. And I'll be honest with you, I would think most Clemson fans, if you said, who would you prefer to play every year? Now, forget rivalry. I understand. Well, man, I'd love to play Alabama and LSU every year. Forget the region and all that. But which teams do you think you perform better against on a consistent basis? I think most of you would say, we'll take the matchup. We'll take our chances with Michigan and Ohio State year after year. So Penn State is in, I think, an easier place to win and yet still underperforms their 2 contemporaries that are national contenders at this point. And how much longer will Penn State fans continue to, keep James Franklin around if he can't beat Ohio State and Michigan consistently? I don't know. And then the blunder with the, I'll tell you what, I got a hard time break. We'll come back. We'll touch on what happened in Saturday's game again for Penn State that just perplexed me personally. All right. I don't. All right. There we go. I think I can't remember who tweeted it out, Craig, but Jimbo Fisher was a baseball player at Clemson at one point a long time ago. And I think somebody said Jimbo Fisher just became the highest, set the mark for the largest buyout of a contract of any former Clemson baseball player. It was $76 million. Let's see. All right. Segment 4. Final segment of hour number 1, the show that shakes the Southland Clemson Sports Talk. We did it live out of the gates on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Follow us over there. Like, share, and subscribe. So we've been talking a lot here about Texas A&M and Penn State. It's almost as if Clemson is on a bye week because there's so much else going on. No offense to North Carolina, by the way, who's ranked 24th in the country, but they enter the matchup against Clemson as 6.5-point underdogs in a game that Vegas believes will put up somewhere in the neighborhood of 58.5 points. So take all that for what it's worth here on a Tuesday afternoon. Mike Uva at GamecockCentral.com joins us right around the bend. But I do want to stick with the money, and part of the reason I think Penn State fans are so angry right now about James Franklin. He didn't directly answer the question that he was asked about what I would consider a coaching blunder. I called it, I said yesterday he makes $8.5 million. It was an $8.50 an hour decision that he made. They scored a touchdown late to make it 24-15. No, yes, 24-15. I believe that was the final score. I'm not even looking back at the score. It doesn't matter. The sentiment stays the same. 24-15. That is a 9-point game with just, I think, right at about 2 minutes left in the ballgame. On what planet does any coach's sheet of what to do tell you to go for 2? Think about that. If you are a coach and your sheet tells you with 2 minutes to go, down by 9, that the play to make is to go for 2, fire whoever made the sheet. And if you made the sheet, then fire yourself.
Oh, I get it. You stink.
Indeed. That, to me, when you're making $8.5 million a year, is reason enough, given everything else that's happened in your tenure, for people to say, that guy doesn't know what he's doing. You know, we've talked about Michigan and their sign stealing scandal and my thoughts on that. And again, the College Football Playoff Committee's rankings come out tonight. I expect Georgia to probably vault up to number 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan's probably 3, Florida State 4. But if between now and the college football playoff we find out that there's more evidence and this is, yep, it happened, it's certainly a fireable offense, not just a sit-out offense for Jim Harbaugh. But we've been talking about these, placards that everybody's got, the little sheets that have all the plays and, what motion they're, what are they doing? Oh, that's a blitz package, whatever. Like all the signals. What plays are they running, whatever. I don't think you could go across the country and get every coach to say, give me your sheet for late game scenarios that would say that if you score a touchdown with 2 minutes left, down by 9, that the play to make is to go for 2. How does that make any logical sense? That is, if you think that that's the best play to make, and I saw people trying to defend him on social media. I'm glad that you don't work for me if you think that's the right move, because you are headed in the wrong direction. You kick the extra point. It is now an 8-point game. If you're scoring at home, kids, that is a 1 possession ball game. And that's where you want to be on the last possession of a ball game, where if you can stop them, you get the ball with a chance to tie. That's where you want to be. You can't be there if when you score and you cut it to 9, you go for 2 and don't get it. Now you got to somehow figure out how to recover 2 onside kicks. And let's just assume for a second that you make it. Let's just give James Franklin, let's just give him the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, James, you made it. Do you still have to get the onside kick? Yes. So why wouldn't you kick the field goal, the extra point? Why wouldn't you take the point? James, do you still have to recover the onside kick? Yes. And if you do, well, we have a chance to tie the game. Now, in some weird world, maybe he could say, yeah, but if we had gotten that 2-point conversion, then we'd been down 7, and when we scored, we could have gone for 2 and tried to win the game. Dude, if that's the card you're rolling on, you don't deserve to be coaching football at this level. Take your $8.5 million and donate it to Texas A&M so they can pay some of Jimbo Fisher's salary off. Because you don't deserve it. And then to have the audacity. This is the other thing with some of these coaches out there. And I'm sure that there have been times Dabo Swinney said something like this to put off a reporter or whatever. I can't think of one right offhand. I can't think of a time Dabo Swinney put off a caller, however.
Now, I have been a part of failure many times, but there ain't one thing in my life that I've ever failed at, Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler. Not one thing. There ain't one thing James Franklin's ever failed at, Tyler, except for math class. What in the world are you doing, James Franklin? And I think that, Penn State's a job. Dude, if I'm Penn State, let me tell you, I don't know what it takes to get out of the Big Ten and into the ACC. I'm trying to figure that out. If you want to get and have chances to get to the college football playoff, maybe now with the 12 team, you'll be all right. Maybe now you'll slide in with some 2-loss years. You're not winning the Big Ten, though, Penn State. You're not winning the Big Ten. Let's just real talk. Hour 2, Mike Uva joins the program. Stay with us. What's up, everybody? Man, people jumped in there. All right, so we've been talking about Dabo earlier. We will revisit that with Mike Uva here in just a second. You guys got me rolling on James Franklin, though. By the way, if you've never been to the website, go check it out. ClemsonSportsTalk.com. $1 gets you in the door. I'll show you the website. I'll pull it up real quick while we're in the middle of this break. There we go. Now these ads are blocked out or something. I don't know why. I've never seen that before. Maybe because I'm screen sharing it, but good article there on Parker. That's for our premium subscribers, $1. $1 gets you in the door on that. Can I take that full screen? Good stuff here. Go check it out. Certainly love to have you join us. Love to have you join us. All right. Mike Uva. Give me 1 second. I'm going to mute. I'm going to pull myself down, put up the backdrop, and catch up with Mike. And we'll be right back, okay? I'm back up. All right, guys, I got Mike with us. We will get to him in just a second, but welcome back to Hour 2. Again, the show's live right now on Fox Sports Radio 1400. You can listen on the iHeartRadio app. If you're not in the Midlands, you can also listen on your computer. Go to foxsportsradio1400.com or go to our website, which is right here, and you can get to it that way as well. All right, here we go. It is hour number 2. That's drive time right here on the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan hanging out with you. Mike Uva, GamecockCentral.com, joins the program on a Tuesday afternoon. Mike, buddy, welcome in. What's going on, brother?
I'm doing good, Swanee. How you doing?
Man, I'm good. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to hang out with us. Obviously, next week will be a big week as the Tigers and the Gamecocks get ready to face off. But before that, both of these teams have some work to do. South Carolina versus Kentucky. Clemson taking on North Carolina. If this was a basketball game, I wouldn't like either of our schools' chances. But since it's football, maybe it goes the way of the Tigers and the Gamecocks this weekend. More on that in a minute. But I do want to get your thoughts on the situation out in College Station with Jimbo Fisher being fired yesterday.
Well, I think first and foremost, what took place, I mean, my goodness, it's not even just the Texas A&M thing. I mean, it's probably happened before, but how crazy is it that you have a team beat the crap out of another team and both coaches get fired? So I think more than anything, the message that sends to me is clearly there was a lot of disconnect going on behind the scenes. Like, that doesn't just happen after beating someone, what was it, like 50-something to 10.
Yeah.
So I think that's what stands out to me more than anything. It further proves a lot of the rumblings. If you pay attention to college football, and not just your team, from start to finish, there was a lot of rumblings, even going back towards the end of last season, whether or not Jimbo Fisher was starting to lose the locker room. You head into this season, and they weren't able to reach those levels of expectations that a lot of the board members had more than anything in that fan base. So I say that because I still think Texas A&M is a very good job simply because of the resources that they have. There's a lot of history, right? You go back to the days of Bear Bryant. When I say history, it doesn't necessarily have to be the national championships, the number of, 10 plus win seasons. I get all that. I understand that they don't have as much as that in comparison to some other schools, but there's still history. There's certainly resources there right now. We talk about NIL and money. So I think from a expectation standpoint, I think they need to bring their expectations down just a little bit and take a step back and realize they're not in Alabama, they're not in Ohio State, they're not a Georgia, but that they can still be a very good football team. And again, in this era, they can really take that next step. But I think you need whoever you bring in, you have to understand, and I'm sure they'll certainly understand the expectations, but bring them down just a little bit to allow that coach to get you to that next step. I think with Jimbo, it was, okay, you won a championship at Florida State, he's going to come in here and he's going to be able to replicate that. Well, now we take a step back, and I think more people are looking at it as saying, all right, maybe Jimbo was, a good coach, but how much of that team was really Jameis Winston and the players that he had around him during that 2013 team?
Again, Mike Uva's on Twitter at Mike_UVA, joining us here on a Tuesday, GamecockCentral.com. We'll talk about South Carolina with him in just a minute. But do you think the issue for Fisher was the finances or the fact that he had one of the top recruiting classes of all time just a couple of years ago, but yet never got it to materialize on the field? Was it performance? I mean, I'm sure it was a little of both, right? But in your mind, do you think it was more performance or pay that ended up costing him his job?
Probably performance, because at the end of the day, he was still going to have to get paid that, right? I mean, when you tell someone, hey, we don't want you to coach, or we're going to give you whatever it was, like 76 point something $million, to me, that's the, hey, we don't feel like you're living up to the expectations that we feel like you should. And a lot of that, like you said, you look at the recruiting class that they were able to bring in a couple of years ago, the amount of money too, the amount of money that's gone in. And I know he kind of fought back at it a year ago, but the amount of money that went into a lot of the additions that they were able to get from an NIL standpoint. I mean, we don't have to be naive. Again, I know that he's going to come out and be supportive and defend it. He's going to defend his program with all that, but we knew what was going on. We knew what was going on. So you have a lot of people investing a lot of money. It's not just for his salary. It's everything else that went into the program, again, with helping to be able to acquire some of these players through NIL. And I think a lot of people were just fed up that they weren't being able to see it materialize as quickly as they would have liked it to. Because you look back to a couple of years ago, I think it was the COVID season. I think they went 9-1. And I think at that point, some people were saying, man, they're going to start to take that next step. And I think some people looked at it as that could be the team to challenge Alabama in the West. And unfortunately for the Aggies, they kept taking steps back. They kept taking steps back, and they weren't able to do what they thought they should be able to do with Jimbo and the talent that they had on that roster.
Mike, final thing on it. I titled today's program, "Would Dabo Swinney leave for Texas A&M?" I think there's a big difference in saying would he leave and will he leave. Just give me your thoughts on it. What would it take to pry Dabo Swinney away from Clemson?
I don't even know if it's necessarily money, because certainly they'd be able to do that, right? I don't know if it'd be as crazy of a salary in comparison to what Jimbo just had. And I'm not saying that Dabo is not worth it in comparison. I just think, just like a lot of these programs, especially now more than ever, we're seeing them say, hey, we probably shouldn't have done a salary like that. We probably need to fix things next time moving forward. So it's not the money. I think more than anything for Dabo, and it's not even a Dabo to Texas A&M question. I think it's a Dabo with college football standpoint, but especially if you were to go to A&M, how much is Dabo going to look at things and say, hey, I need to embrace the changes of college football, right? He goes over there. Again, they have the resources. And that's no disrespect against Clemson, but in comparison to a lot of places out there, a lot of places, they have the resources simply because they have crazy amounts of money. So if he went there, he would have everything that he would need. I mean, he certainly has the resources at Clemson, but he goes to Texas A&M. That's like resources on steroids. That sounds great for a lot of these coaches that would say, okay, hey, good situation. Certainly the expectations are high, but as we're seeing here in Clemson, and just like Bill Belichick's learning, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. It's what have you done for me lately? And I think he's getting a little fed up. Certainly winning cures all, right? You win these last 2 weeks, so some of that is simmered down. But he goes to Texas A&M, yeah, the expectations are going to be extremely high. But at the same time, too, you go there, you have to embrace the changes of college football. You have to embrace the transfer portal. You have to embrace NIL. Because if you don't, going to a place like that, I think Dabo will just absolutely lose his mind. So, again, whether he stays at Clemson, whether he goes and does something else in college football, at some point, he's going to have to embrace. But if he went to a place like A&M, certainly he would have to embrace it on a whole nother level.
Well, you know what I said, though? I said you'd have to more than double his contract. I don't think he would leave for less than $22 million. And I don't think even A&M, with all their money, would be willing to pay somebody that to come, risk it. They've already tried that with Jimbo Fisher, right? They gave him $7.5 million guaranteed, thought they were going to bring a national championship over from Florida State. It didn't materialize. That's why I don't think Sweeney or any of these guys are the answer for them. I think they got to go get a little more blue collar, a little more up and coming. And I'm not saying go get somebody that's not established, but I think I don't think you just go out. In sports where teams go out and just try to buy the best players and it never really works out. Well, that's kind of what this feels like for Texas A&M. I think they got to get the right fit for their program, not the right purchase for their program.
Yeah, and the other thing too, Swanee, and I don't know if you fully agree with me, but I see a lot of people, especially when it comes to a job like this, and they're like, man, A&M, they're moving on from Jimbo. They have to go and get a home run hire. Who the heck's a home run hire right now? Really? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like the big name coaching hires, I can't see really anyone moving right now. Again, maybe it is Dabo. And I'm not saying Dabo's certainly leaving, but Dabo would be a name. But who would really move? I can't see Deion Sanders leave Colorado. I can't see some of these home run high. I think it's just we're so used to seeing a position like this. Again, I don't think it's top tier. I think it's just below that simply because it has the resources and the history. But I don't think it's as simple as just saying, oh, yeah, they're going to get the home run higher. Who the heck's out there right now?
Yeah,
That's why I agree with you. I agree with you with the blue-collar mentality.
Yeah, I think Mike Elko's probably the first name on their list, just given the fact that he was the defensive coordinator, and I think they could get him at a reasonable price. I like the idea of Deion Sanders, though, based off of what we saw at Colorado at the outset, but I feel like some of the luster for Deion may have rubbed off just a little bit with the way things have gone for them. Again, follow Mike Uva on Twitter at Mike_UVA. All right, the South Carolina Gamecocks, Mike, we knew this several weeks ago that they would need to win out in order to get bowl eligible. Thus far, they've taken care of business, beating Jacksonville State and Vanderbilt. They've got Kentucky, 6-4 Wildcat team coming into Williams-Brice Stadium this weekend. 7:30 start under the lights. The Gamecocks still got to keep winning, man. What's the vibe right now around the Gamecocks after a little 2-game winning streak?
Well, I think it was simply that, just being able to get wins. And not just wins, but being able to do them back-to-back weeks, something they haven't been able to do all season, which is just crazy to say because they're midway through November. So, look, they're 4-6. They beat Jacksonville State. They beat Vanderbilt, two teams who aren't world beaters by any means. But even going into those games, regardless of what that score was, with South Carolina beating up on Vandy, at least heading into that game, there's nothing that should have said, hey, we feel great about South Carolina's chances, simply because they've been very, very inconsistent this year with practically everything. However, in that game, they were able to do things that we hadn't seen them do all season, and that's being able to play some really good complementary football. They were finally able to block a punt and return it for a touchdown. Hadn't done that all season, just their second block kick of the year after being second in the country last year and blocking 5. Defensively, they forced 2 takeaways. They did something that they hadn't done since 2019, and that's being able to hold an SEC opponent scoreless for the first 3 quarters, only allowed 53 yards of total offense in the first half. And yes, the weather conditions certainly played a role and a factor as to why Vandy's offense was probably a little sloppy. But at the same time, too, USC's offense had to face the same conditions, and they were able to adapt to it. Spencer Rattler, other than one errant throw, I thought he looked sharp. But I think with this USC team, the big thing is again, being able to do some of these things that you know that you're capable of doing. You just hadn't been able to do them all year for whatever reason. So now trying to find that stride, trying to find the confidence and everything else that you need at the right time. I think, if anything, what makes them feel better heading into this Kentucky game is simply knowing that, hey, we can do it. It's not just, hey, we're just saying that we can do it. No, we have it on tape now. Now we have to go out there. We have to do it again under the lights against Kentucky. That place is going to be freaking rocking. I mean, there's a lot going on right now in Columbia with that. And I think a lot of fans are starting to buy back into what's going on. But for the players, the energy has remained the same. It's remained the same going back to even heading into that Jacksonville State game when they only had two wins on the year.
Mike, I know from Clemson's standpoint, Dabo Swinney was asked about Antonio Williams and his situation. They'd like to see him be able to play against South Carolina, but they definitely feel like he'll be available for the bowl game. The Gamecocks kind of, I guess, have a similar situation with Juice Wells, who was a preseason, all SEC selection, if I remember correctly, and just has got hurt in that Georgia game after scoring a touchdown. I'm not trying to say that, look, when this guy's playing, this offense is, completely different than it already is, but he definitely is an addition of spice to the South Carolina offense. I mean, what is his situation right now, in your opinion, or what do you know? And will we see him back before the end of the year?
I think the frustrating part is that Juice at this point is the one that's controlling everything. And what I mean by that is he's moving at his own pace. Now, does some of that have to do with just the way the season's gone? Sure. But I also think a part of it is just coming back from a mental standpoint, overcoming some of those hurdles. Because when he came back for the Georgia game, yeah, certainly he wasn't 100%. But at the same time, too, he was good enough. I mean, I shared this before the game against Georgia. I'm in the end zone, and Juice Wells just came on over to me, and he said, Mike, I'm feeling really good today. And then what does he do in the opening drive? He puts up about 40 yards receiving, including that touchdown, which unfortunately he got hurt on.
Yeah.
So I share that because I think with Juice, the way that Beamer has talked about him in press conferences, even when he's asked about him, I mean, there's been weeks just like today. Beamer gives the injury report. He doesn't even mention anything about Juice. But then there's been other weeks where he's like, Juice is out this week, or, there's a chance that Juice plays. I bring that up because this week, yeah, I can't see Juice playing. I can't. I'd be a little surprised if it did happen. But I do feel like if South Carolina is able to win this week, I think we'll see Juice back for that Clemson game. And if Juice Wells comes out there for a South Carolina team who needs to be able to get a win in order to become bowl eligible, that place will go absolutely nuts. Now, certainly USC will have to do a lot if they want to be able to beat Clemson, but I mean, him and Xavier Legette on the field together, especially with the way that Legette's playing this season, I mean, we haven't seen anything like that in quite some time for South Carolina.
Again, he's on Twitter at Mike_UVA. Now, the other thing too, Mike, this Kentucky team, obviously I think they feel like right now at 6-4, that it's a bit of a down year. We know how good Stoops has been in that capacity. I haven't had a chance to see a whole lot from them this year. What are your thoughts, though, on the Wildcats as they get ready to come in to take on the Gamecocks?
They remind me in a sense of where Florida was before they came in to play South Carolina that weekend. And the reason I say that is you just don't know which team's going to show up. Now, the difference is with Kentucky, over these last 5 games, they're 1-4, and all 4 of those losses have been against some really good teams. I mean, you're talking Alabama, you're talking Missouri, you're talking some really good football teams in there. So I bring it up because it's not like they've just gone out there and they've been losing to some powder puff football teams. No, they've gone out there, they've played some good competition. Having said that, though, even in those games, sometimes they just give up. I mean, you can just watch the way they play, they just give up. So I think with this South Carolina team, you're playing a Kentucky team who already has 6 wins, which means they're already bowl eligible. Maybe they don't have that same spark in them. And maybe with the way the season has kind of turned, you're hoping that you're able to catch them at the right time. Because I was part of teams like this. I had a former Gamecock, Michael Scarnecchia, on our post-game show the other day. We talked about that unfortunately there's plenty of programs. And again, I was part of one, he was part of one, where towards the end of the season, if the season's not going well for you, there's just teams that will just shut it down. I mean, players would just shut it down, and it's frustrating when you're on a team like that. So maybe that was the case with Vandy last week, but you're hoping with Kentucky again that because things aren't going the way that they want them to, because they're already bowl eligible, maybe they don't play up to the level that they're capable of, and you're able to continue to capitalize off of the momentum you've been able to create over the last 2 weeks.
Again, he is on Twitter at Mike_UVA, GamecockCentral.com, part of the On3 network. Mike, buddy, we always appreciate you, my man, and definitely look forward to talking to you next Tuesday. It'll be the last show for us of the week until Friday as we get ready for Thanksgiving. And, of course, that matchup between the Tigers and the Gamecocks in Williams-Brice Stadium next Saturday night. Mike, buddy, take care, my man.
You too, Swanee. Appreciate it.
There you go, Mike Uva, again, hanging out with us here on the program. 803-450-0086. That is the text line and the phone line. And again, you can be a part of this program anytime, any place, and of course, anywhere. Tomorrow, don't miss it, man. It's become a popular day here on the program. Our What to Watch Wednesday edition of the program, where we line up 10 games for you, and then we knock them down over the weekend. Quick break. We'll come back with more right here on a Tuesday afternoon. Signetti, huh? Is that Rod? Rod says Kurt Signetti. Signetti's over at James Madison. His brother, Frank Signetti Jr., is that his name? Frank? Oh, man. His brother's the OC for Pittsburgh. And I think I was looking them up. I don't know why I was looking them up not all that long ago, but their dad was a coach at, for some reason I want to say West Virginia. Dude, if that's right, I somebody, I have the worst trouble keeping up with stuff because I have so much in my brain. Let's see, Frank Signetti Sr. Oh, wow. Head coach 76 to 79 at West Virginia. This brain, why couldn't this have, kept something more valuable than sports gunk? Why? This is a collection of sports gunk. Couldn't tell you who the 7th president was. Oh, yeah, I can. Andrew Jackson. Couldn't tell you who the 8th is. Poor guy. Hey, Siri, who was the 7th president of the United States? Yes. Hey, who's the 8th? Martin Van Buren? Hey, Siri, who was the 8th president of the United States? Oh, baby. What? Roll. Martin Van Buren. My man. The man, Martin Van. Oh, after 8? 9. Could any of y'all name them all? Could you name them all? 40, what were they in? 46? If you count Grover Cleveland twice, or wasn't he the one? Let's see. After Van Buren. I got nothing. It's just sad face emoji on number 9. I'm going to go Millard Fillmore. Millard Fillmore is my guess. If Millard Fillmore, let me tell you, if Millard Fillmore was on 9, 7, 8, yeah, I'm on 9. If Millard Fillmore was the 9th president, I'm going to get on Jeopardy. Hey, Siri, who was the 9th president of the United States? William Henry Harrison. Does he count? How long was he in office? Like 40 days? Was he the one that died after giving a long speech? Now you got me wanting to look it up. Henry Harrison. He was not president very long. John Tyler, I guess, followed him. If I'm being honest here, if you asked me, was John Tyler a president, I probably would have said no. All right, sorry. So a little off topic there. Save file. Did I get 2 in a row? Incredible. All right, got to upload that file. Then we can roll. See, 508, man, that's the all-time mark. I mean, if we just flat out did the show the rest of the way, we got 7. Go. Rocking and rolling along with you on a Tuesday afternoon. That was Mike Uva before the break. Thank you to everybody hanging out with us, watching live. You can share it, be a part of it. And we're going to try to continue to do the show live as much as possible on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Yes, I refuse to call it X. That doesn't even make sense. I mean, even if I were to jokingly do it, it would not make sense. Did you see it? Did you see their X? Like, what do you even say? That's where Musk messed this all up. Like when you said, well, I tweeted it, people know exactly what you did. If you say I posted it, they have no idea what you did. I X'd it, doesn't make any sense to any human being anywhere. Just keep the branding. Like it would be like this. So Kleenex, right? I forget what the terminology is, but Kleenex became synonymous with tissues, so much so that if someone asks for a Kleenex, you know they're just asking for a tissue. Okay? Refrigerators didn't do that. Nobody says, go grab the milk out of the Frigidaire. Go get the milk out of the Samsung. I will say my uncle Irk, great uncle back in the day, would say go get something out of the Kelvinator. Go grab that sweet tea out of the Kelvinator. That was the brand of that refrigerator. It was called a Kelvinator. Now, in fairness to Kelvinators, I mean, they had a name that kind of sounded like refrigerator, so it just kind of fit in. Frigidaire does not sound like that. Samsung does not sound like that. The Whirlpoolinator, maybe people would have bought in on it. That is what Elon Musk did. He switched the name of a brand that had beautiful branding. We retweeted it. Now we repost it. Dude, I repost stuff on Facebook, on TikTok, you can go through the list. Instagram, repost things. This dude, this genius, right? Allegedly. This genius, and obviously he's made a ton of money, so he's obviously, done something right, of a guy took something that was branded specifically and made it just neutral. Go back to calling it Twitter. Go back to calling him tweets. You want to keep the stupid X logo? Fine by me. But call it Twitter. You don't have to have the bird logo. But people talked about your brand. Now people don't. It's like the app formerly known as Twitter. I refuse. Anyway, long day here on the program. We've talked a lot about Dabo Swinney, the Texas A&M job. Again, Swinney met with the media earlier today. He said, look, he's focused on this job. Must be November. Just trying to find a way to beat North Carolina. That was Dabo Swinney's conversation earlier today. And again, we've been doing the show or trying to do the show live for you here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And one of the things I don't like about it is, and I told y'all this last week, I don't like the fact that if I want to play, Dabo Sweeney for you, we have to hear, if I'm going to do it like this, we have to hear, what everybody in the room is saying. And I prefer that not to be the case. But anyway, we will play a little bit of Dabo Swinney for you here on the program. We'll play the introduction that he had today because typically that goes without hearing from anybody else. So here's some of Dabo Swinney from Tigertown earlier this afternoon.
Take it away.
Yeah, well, I was just about to say we had the other footballers in here today, I hear, and got Noon sitting in the back. But man, how about our soccer teams? Freaking awesome! I mean, just awesome. Coach, awesome. We got this coaches group text, and it's always fun, to see all the emojis and all the stuff that's going on when you have a great moment like that. And basketball off to a great start with a big win up there in Asheville. It was really cool. Don Munson and Beret had where's Bray? Oh, you're awake. Okay. Them boys had a big few days back and forth, but man, women and men's basketball off to a good start, and our soccer teams. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to watch, and I think we got maybe one of the best lacrosse signing classes in the history of lacrosse going on right now. So a lot of good things going on. A lot of fun this time of year because it's kind of you got fall sports, spring sport, everything's kind of happening all together. But we're pulling for our women's soccer team to keep it rolling, and for Noons and the boys to go get another one here. So it's gonna be fun. But great opportunity again this week. November is here, and we're off to a good start and got an opportunity to have a great finish. It's a heck of a football team coming in. Doesn't get easier. This is another elite quarterback. And I mean, this guy's going to play. This guy's going to play football for a long time. If good Lord keeps him healthy, he's going to play a long time. And so it's one of those cool opportunities to play against one of the best. He's a great one, and makes everybody. They got a lot of good players, but he's one of them guys that, he makes the coaches better. He makes the fans better. He makes the popcorn taste better. Everything's better when you got a dude like that, under center. So great player, and a great matchup. They've had a heck of a year. They're coming off a big win. We're coming off a big win. So both teams will want the same thing. So we've got to have a great week of preparation. Off to a good start last night. Love Mac Brown. He's y'all know that he's a great friend and someone that I've always had a tremendous amount of respect for, and always tough to compete against his teams. They're always well coached. And again, it starts with their offense. I mean, they're third in the country. So last week, I think that bunch was 14th in the country, and here we go. They're third in the country, about 500 something yards a game, and
So there you go. Just a little bit of Dabo Sweeney. We'll come back. We'll hear some more about his relationship with head coach Mac Brown of the North Carolina Tar Heels right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400 and, of course, on the iHeart Radio app. See, that's why I don't like to do that. Ugh.
Awesome. I mean, just all. How about our?
Just the whole getting in and out of it. Yeah. But I also don't want to not play it. And even if I had like somebody running it, like an intern, it still, I don't like that by comparison how we normally do it. But anyway, hope y'all are doing good. Good story on the website about TJ Parker. If you want to go check that out, $1 gets you in the door. 3 months. That'll carry you up to, well, what's today? February? Might be worth it. Definitely worth it. $1. What's it going to hurt? If you like it, stick around. 63.17. You can support us. Oh, man. All right. So, see, what's going to happen is I'm going to go play the Dabo, question about his relationship with Mac Brown. Time is it? Okay. And it's going to be like some guy asking the question first, and then it's just going to bother me. Perfectionist. Seven. There we go. Segment 7. One more segment after this one. Thanks for hanging out. Hit that share button. Hit that subscribe. Matter of fact, do this, please. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. I need to get to 1,000 followers there. I've never pushed it. Like I see these other, I see some shows that have 3,000 subscribers. I don't know how. I don't push it, I guess. Go push that button. Subscribe there. And TikTok. I need to get to 1,000 on TikTok. That, I think, will be the game changer. If we can get to 1,000, we're probably at maybe 450. If I can get to 1,000 subscribers on TikTok, I'll be doing something. At least I'll feel like that. All right, so let me upload number 6. Okay. Clemson Sports Talk, the show that shakes the Southland. Thank you to everybody watching live, being a part of the program on the iHeartRadio app as well. You can text us 803-450-0086. You can call us on that number too, and if we miss you, you can leave us a message and we'll play it on the show. And it works perfectly. I love that. As a matter of fact, that means you podcast listeners, those of you that listen to the podcast, you all can also be a part of the show that way. And the podcast, man, the downloads, ridiculous. I'm humbled. I remember when we crossed 1 million and I was like, what? On the 2, on the 3, let's keep going. Subscribe in your favorite podcast app. I like the Overcast app. Podcast Addict is a good one I heard for Android, but the Apple Podcast app is perfect. I just uploaded all the podcasts to YouTube as well. I don't really know how that works. I know this. I get notifications from YouTube every day telling me this episode cannot be monetized in Bangladesh. And what do I need to know that for? I'm not interested in monetizing this content in Bangladesh. Thank you very much. 803-450-0086. So earlier we were listening to some of what Dabo Sweeney had to say about his relationship with Mack Brown. And, of course, a lot of that goes back to a visit that Clemson had with Mack Brown back in early on in Sweeney's tenure. Anyway, here's Dabo Swinney earlier today up in Clemson talking about Brown and talking about the relationship that he has with Mack Brown. And I never will forget, man, when I first saw Mack Brown at the ACC kickoff, I thought, dude, that is incredible. He just fits the ACC. Here's Sweeney talking about Coach Brown earlier today up in Clemson.
He's a good man. I mean, he really is. And, he's a guy that I had followed as a young coach. I followed him, I followed a lot of people as I was trying to navigate my coaching career and just learn and get better and, just observe how people handled themselves, whether it was something bad or something good. And I just thought he was always a class guy, and when I got this job, I've said this a few times. I reached out to a lot of coaches, a bunch of them, and he was the only guy that let me come see him. I guess everybody thought I was going, I guess they thought Clemson might turn out to be good or something. I don't know. Maybe they knew something I didn't know at the time, but it's coaches, because a lot of coaches, they get together, but when you don't know somebody, most coaches might be a little hesitant to say, hey, yeah, come on in here and we'll meet with you and talk to you. But I just reached out to him, called his assistant, left a message. He called me back, and still remember the conversation. It was like it was yesterday. You'd have thought I'd known him for 20 years. I was just like, Coach Brown, hey, this is Dabo Sweeney from Clemson, and appreciate you calling me back. I said, look, I just obviously just got the job, and I just love to come out and just want to come meet with you and talk to you. I've got a lot of questions. I got a lot of things that I think I know, and I got a lot of things that I know I don't know, and I'd just like to get some confirmation and direction and just sit down and just have a visit. Oh, and by the way, can I bring my staff? Maybe watch a spring practice day, and got a new staff, and let's just kind of talk some shop for a couple of days. And he was just awesome. I mean, I remember specifically him saying that he had followed me during the interim, and he just said he was pulling for me, and he said, man, I'm just really glad to see you get the job. And he said, heck yeah, man, you bring anybody you want to bring. And that was just, and I didn't know how big a deal that was, at the time. And they were, so this would have been February February, late February. They'd already started spring ball, maybe early March, right there of 2009. And, we go out there and I mean, it was great. I mean, we got to, I had a lot on my mind, and I mean, just infrastructure, facilities, staffing, recruiting, just all kind of stuff, practice, discipline, I had a lot of questions, and I was really hoping he might give me an hour. Honestly, I would just, we got out there, we got a tour, we kind of saw everything. We met with offense, we met with the defense, and I remember I was kind of sitting in there meeting with the offensive guys, and he sent somebody to come get me. And just remember going and sitting I mean, we met for hours over a couple day period. And he's a funny guy, and I mean, and the best part is, and I still got it all written down. I had all my little questions, I had it all written down, things that I just wanted to talk about. And I'd get halfway through the question, he'd cut me off because he already knew the answer, and a lot of it was, okay, well, I'm not crazy. And some of it was, oh, wow, really? Because, they were Texas, and we're trying to, do things differently here. So it was just great watching practice, and he took us all to eat. He took all of us, took the whole staff, some barbecue joint out there. It was great. So, I mean, I just, he didn't have to do any of that. And they were coming off when did they win the national championship out there? 07, 8? So when was that? 05. So but they had a good year that year. I mean, they were having a great. He had a lot going on, and it just meant a lot, to me. And I never forgot that. And so we've just.
Dabo Swinney there talking about staying in touch with and the relationship that he has with Mack Brown. And it's a cool one. I mean, in this day and age, to imagine, people are coached doing what Mack Brown did for Dabo Swinney at that point in his career. I mean, that's the kind of thing. And it's almost kind of like servant leadership to a degree. Like, you're just saying, look, man, I understand you're in a different spot than I am, but I'm thankful that you have questions that I can answer. And why don't you come out here and we'll help you get those answers taken care of. I mean, it's really cool. It's kind of a mentorship in a small way, just for a couple of days. But to hear Dabo Swinney recount those moments, I think is important. And it's part of the reason, I think some people started to like Mack Brown when he was on television. Maybe you didn't like him in his first stint at North Carolina. Maybe you did like him, however, when he beat Southern Cal for that national title out of Texas and the way Vince Young played that day. But more specifically now, you kind of see this connection between the two programs, and you go, I don't dislike Mack Brown. And I think you hear that from Dabo Swinney. All right, quick break. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on the show. Stay with us. Final segment coming up, everybody. So, look, I am going to try to be here doing it every day like this. I know I can't always. Like I told you before, Mondays are really tough. Mondays are just awful. Most Mondays. Busy with school, busy with this. And here's the other thing, too. Okay, just for those of you that are like on the fence. Okay, like, I don't know, Swanee, if I want to subscribe. I already subscribed to site X, Y, or Z, whatever. Whichever sites they are. Here's what I would say to you. Even if you said, and you know what, I think those guys provide me with, I think they give me the better recruiting coverage. That's fine. I don't deny that fact that Rivals, Tiger Illustrated, has great recruiting coverage. I don't deny that fact. But we try to be a little bit different. We do more digital content than they do. We do a 2-hour daily radio show. Like, if you like this aspect of what we do, you can directly support us on the website. If you think, man, I think it's great that we've got a Clemson show that's on the radio every day and streaming online that I can be a part of, then if you like that, then the way you can support that is by subscribing to our website. And then you can still get content that you can't get anywhere else because there are exclusive things that we put up. Not to mention what Luke and Tyrese are doing, pounding the pavement with recruiting. And I would like to write more. You might say, well, Swanee, why don't you write more? Like, I wrote that story on Parker. I thought it was a great story. Made it premium. I thought it was so good. But the reason I can't write more is because when I get off work, what I do for you guys is a 2-hour radio show. I mean, if I didn't have the radio show, I could come home and probably write every day. Get a story or two done. A little different medium. If you like it, come support us. That's all I'm saying. Somebody posted the other day, I posted a premium story, and it said something like $1 to, start your membership. And it's 3 months for $1. So if you start it and you don't like it, you can leave. That's fine. I get it. And the guy wrote, I wouldn't pay 1 cent. And I thought, you know what? You don't have to be a jerk. You can just scroll past it. But I can tell you, you don't walk into, that guy that said I wouldn't pay 1 cent. He doesn't walk into a restaurant and expect it to be free. Tyrese, he's got to eat. Luke's got to eat. I got to eat. Just, support us for 17 cents a day. If you get enough supporters doing that, man, we can really start to do a lot more, believe me. Believe me. But yeah, that dude said that. I was like, why you gotta be a jerk? Like, if you don't like the content, just don't read it. Keep scrolling, pal. Wouldn't pay 1 cent. That dude probably wouldn't have one listener. What a pain. But yes, I would appreciate it if you would support us. Because we do work hard. Contrary to that dude's opinion. Tyler. His name wasn't Tyler. This is what I should have said.
So you don't ever have to call back.
Yeah. Right on my post. Here we go. Final segment on a Tuesday. Mike Uva out of the gates in hour 2. Joined us. Go check that out. Talked a lot about South Carolina. Talked a lot about Jimbo Fisher. The big question of the day, would Dabo Swinney leave for the job at Texas A&M? Of course, we all would. I just don't think they'll cross the number they would take to get him there. I think they've already tried that. And they already tried to hire a guy that's won a national title. And you see what that got him? It got him nothing. No division titles, no conference titles, no national championships. Was it no 10-win seasons? Is that right? They went 9-1 in the COVID year. I could be wrong on that. Maybe they did have a 10-winner at some point, but I believe I said yesterday it was none. I can remember who the 8th and 9th presidents are or whatever, but I can't remember whether he got 10 wins. I don't think he did. I'm going to stand on that mountain. I'm going to stand on that mountain.
Pow!
All right, so tomorrow, the What to Watch Wednesday edition. And I will tell you, my What to Watch Wednesday lists, they're pretty gnarly. Not in that they're bad, but I just I make some notes and write them down. It's not an extensive, like, deeply thought out list. Justin chimes into the program, and we'll get to that, our new list tomorrow. That's the old list. Our new list tomorrow. Like, everybody has a favorite pen. I think this is my go-to. Like, if I was on game day, it's the Sharpie. I like the big boy Sharpie. That's it. I don't like the little scrawny boy Sharpie. I don't like the mega Sharpie. Give me the fine point Sharpie. Justin says, I think A&M wants Elko or Oregon's coach. Oregon's coach, Dan Lanning, already said he's happy where he is. I mean, again, money talks. Everybody's got a price for the $1 million man. But I think Dan Lanning would command the type of salary that Dabo Swinney would command that would be something that Texas A&M is not willing to offer somebody. I do think Mike Elko, though, is the name to watch. And you know what's ironic is Duke re-upped his contract this year because they were threatened by Northwestern. I don't think they thought that Texas A&M would be the threat, but now I think A&M is. Travis says, where's all this Dabo to A&M talk coming from? Travis, I think, well, it's a couple of things. One, there's the belief that A&M would spend whatever. There's also the belief that A&M has already done this once. Now, that's where I think, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I don't think they're going to go that route because I don't think they would pay the money that it would take to get Dabo Swinney there. And I'm not sure that's a position he desires unless the money was just absurd. And even that, I don't think necessarily drives Dabo Swinney. I don't think that that's what motivates him. I don't think going and try to prove it in the SEC would be the motivating factor either, quite frankly, because you still get that at the back end if you get to the college football playoff. You get a chance to prove your worth and what your team's, how good your team is against the best of the best. And they've already proved that over the years. But I think he's young and successful. I think given that they've had a few years, down, right? I think people feel like, okay, he's vulnerable to be, ripe for the picking. The blow up that he had with the caller, Tyler, I think that's probably a part of it for some people. They go, oh, Dabo's tired of the fans. And I just think that that's where it all stems from. I don't think it's going anywhere. The question I said, would Swinney leave for A&M? I think that's an absolute yes, he would. If the right price is right, you can hit a number that somebody would leave for. If it ain't $25 million, it's $35. And I think those are stupid numbers. But would he? Yes. Will he? No, I don't think he will. Sean says Jimbo never was a good coach. I agree, man. The mismanagement, like the way he ran, and this was the problem when A&M took him. What happened? Remember the game where Winston was supposed to be suspended, and he came out dressed, and Fisher had to send him back in. Like at that moment, I remember thinking, "Who's in charge here? Who's in charge here?" And that's why I wouldn't want Fisher running my program, because it felt like, from looking at Florida State, who was in charge there. And then you see at A&M, it just never materialized. I don't think he's the right guy to put the puzzle pieces together anymore, at least. Maybe he was at some time. I'm not 100% sure. And Norris says, what do you suggest? I mean, in terms of the coaches, Norris, if I'm A&M, I'm not going the same route I went with Jimbo Fisher. I'm not going to go hire a guy that's won national titles and try to bring him in. I'm going to hire somebody that I think is invested in Texas A&M, invested in the community, and maybe has some connections to that program already. That leads me to think it's Mike Elko, but I don't know if Elko's flashy enough for him. And that might be a problem for some of their elite financial people, if you will. So I don't know where they go, quite frankly, but I think Elko would be my likely guess. All right, we got to get out of here. Look, we'll be back tomorrow at 4 o'clock. That's 4 o'clock live on the iHeartRadio app. We'll be here a little earlier for those of you that want to tune in and catch us live as we stream the show as well. But until then, as always, y'all take care now. And go Tigers! Boy, that was a longer segment than it needed to be. 5:16. See, I can't beat 5:08, man. 5:08 is the earliest that I've ever gotten the show done. And again, if you want to hear anything you missed, if you're like, man, I wish I'd have been here for, Mike Uva. Well, you only got 4 minutes of that left, I guess. But anyway, don't forget, you can always jump online and stream the show on iHeart. And if you're in the car in the Midlands, 1400 AM. All right, man, 30 more seconds to trim out. Buddy, that's tough. You know what? I'm going to take out some of what I was saying here at the end. Hold on. 4 o'clock live on. Take out all that. Where they go, quite frankly. But I think Elko would be my likely guess. All right, we got to get out of here. Look, we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, as always, y'all take care now. And go Tigers! I can deal with that. Takes us out at 24. That means I got to get 9 seconds. There is 9 seconds in here for sure. All right, well, I guess no reason for you guys to hear me fiddling around trimming 9 seconds out of the show. So, yeah. Would love to have you subscribe to the website. Can't afford it. No worries. I get it. But it's $63.17 for a year. That's right, Gamecocks. I said it, $63.17. That's 17 cents a day, but you can get 3 months for $1 to start your membership. We'd love to have you come check it out. All right, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Y'all take care. Go Tigers.